I'm saying this would not be the end of it.
Again?
Between now and June 2023, we will see similar things happen. Probably 2 more. If we don't stem the tide between now and 2023, and we get 2 more, the pack of cards will begin to fall. This is because the toxicity that His Excellency the President spoke about is a fundamental challenge that all countries in the Sahel and West Africa are facing, and other African countries. But for the sake of the conversation, let me focus on the Sahel and West Africa. He mentioned pandemics and violent extremism. The pandemics we couldn't have predicted, but the trajectory of extremist violence we knew as far back as 2008, 2009. But compounding that is the excessive corruption, is the youth bulge, the inability to create jobs, the educational systems that do not respond to nor train people to meet or work in a digital age, so that the structural underpinnings for instability are present everywhere else. But something just for the sake of the argument and for history, you know, in December 1980 in Ghana, the government then refused the Black Stars to go to Libya to play the African Cup of Nations. And then the 31st December coup came, and there was jubilation because the new PNDC regime then said the Black Stars could go. So there's a way in which history repeats itself. But we are all very fantastic history teachers, but we are very poor history students. Okay, so what has happened in Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso aren't a surprise. And I'm not shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if you go into town and you did random sampling and 9 out of 10 said they are not surprised. The real question becomes, what is the quality of intelligence and risk assessment analysis that is presented to our leaders to be able to take preventive action? I mean, somebody must be answering to the president, because once we were focusing on Mali and providing all the lists of do's and don'ts, and as Joe says, these are documents that are 20, 30 years, 40 years old. They don't speak to people's aspirations. The bulk of the youth in our populations don't know about these principles and these norms. So what is failing West Africa and the Sahel? It's not the military's penchant for power. Unfortunately, it is democracy and the way in which we've run it and implemented it that is failing. That the democratic dividend that we all look forward to has failed to materialize. And that is why suddenly this monstrosity called military rule is becoming appealing to ordinary people in Africa. But we need to pull back from the brink. And pulling back from that brink, as Kofi says, is that unconstitutionality is not only when the military takes power, but when people play games with the constitutional process, does not allow the opposition to have access to the media, manipulate their armed forces or uniformed forces to play particular roles that is inimical to democratic growth. So I think we need to expand that physiology and to ensure that things are done differently. Finally, is the coups are taking place now within a changed and a changing geopolitical framework. France has lost credibility across the sub-region. It is a laughingstock. It's exploited its former territories so disastrously that people just don't want France. we now see an old player that is resurgent now, the new Russia, willing and capable of using different instruments. We can discuss the appropriateness of those instruments to intervene and to offer new forms of